everyone, thanks for watching our group's video. I want to begin with a question that many people may thought about. If moral values are different in every culture, how can we say something is right or wrong? In the age of globalization, young people are exposed to many value systems. Western ideas such as individualism and liberalism appear to modern and attractive. At the same time, traditional values are sometimes labeled as old, strict, and limiting. As a result, many young people feel confused about identity and morality. They don't know which values to follow or whether they should judge moral problems at all. Today, we will discuss this issue in an interview format using philosophical perspectives, real-life cases, and possible solutions. Okay, let's start with our first guest. Hello, would you mind sharing your opinion about why do Western values often become a standard answer for young people around the world?
Maybe I can answer this question from a post-colonial perspective, in which this phenomenon is called cultural hegemony. It seems like Western values are not spread by force today. Instead, it silently enters people's lives through education, social media, movies, and even advertisement. And for most of the time, it's really hard to distinguish, as these values are largely presented as scientific, neutral, or modern. Over time, young generation may believe that this kind of Western lifestyles, like what we see in the movie, are representing the image of success, freedom, and progress. It also reminds me of a book called Blacks in White Masks. It's by Frantz Fanon. In this book, he described it as a cultural inferiority complex. As colonized and non-Western societies may internalize Western standards and adopt their own tradition. For example, English is considered more intelligent and professional, while local languages are considered backwards, like Tagalog in Philippines. So, along with the language, the local moral standards are also weakened. I've been always thinking about how can we tackle with this issue? What can we do? Perhaps one of the answers is the national philosophy. With this philosophy that is deeply rooted in the culture and the tradition of certain country, it may help the young generation to recognize this hidden power structure and encourages them to ask why these values are considered advanced. Who defines it? Is it fair? Is it right or wrong? So I believe maybe this critical awareness is the first step towards cultural confidence.
Many young people say there is no universal right or wrong. Is this what moral relativism really means? Say different topics of the moral practices and traditions. For example, some stress extended family and mutual respect. Others may value personal independence. Polygamy is a tradition in some cases, but seems unfair to others. Attitude to same-sex relationship and women's rights can vary hugely. These differences are simply facts. They can teach us humanity and help us avoid thinking always the only right one. However, trouble comes when people rather say nothing is ever. That way, everything is relative without a shared standard. That's a risk. Respecting diversity doesn't mean accepting harm, violence, and injustice. Without a basic standard, we couldn't challenge slavery, discrimination, and oppression. Since once justified as cultural, extreme relativism will keep us silent and protects wrongdoers. Relativism is not a bad thing. It stops us from forcing our views on others. but too much of it let power hide behind tradition. We need balance, respect their differences and their context, while holding firmly to core ideas like human dignity, justice, and avoiding harm. It belongs to all of us. That way we can steer clear of arrogance and silence and move to a fairer, more inclusive world.
Hello, can you give us a concrete example of how this moral confusion appears in China?
A good example is the conflict between traditional family expectations and career choice. Traditionally, Chinese young people are encouraged to stay close to home and support their parents and families. But today, many young people choose to work or study abroad or move to big cities to get high salary or pursue personal dreams. Some young people consider the filial piety as old power or control and reject it completely, using moral relativism as an excuse. However, the filial piety does not mean blind obedience. It can also be interpreted as responsibility and care, not moral pressure. It shows the modern and traditional values does not have to cancel each other.
Why does liberalism strongly attract the young people today?
From a liberalism perspective, the main attraction for young people is autonomy. Liberalism emphasizes individual rights, personal freedom, and the ability to make their own choices. For many young people, especially in more traditional societies, it feels like freedom. It allows them to step outside strict hierarchies, reduce the pressure from their family expectations, and explore their own identity. Liberalism gives them the sense that their life truly belongs to them. However, this attraction also becomes with risks. When individualism becomes too extreme, it can lead to automation. People become separated. Liberalism protects personal freedom very well, but it doesn't always provide answer to deeper human risks, such as community responsibility or shared meanings. While liberalism is very appealing, especially for the youth, it reminds us that freedom needs to be balanced with connection and social bonds.
How does communitarianism respond to the liberalism?
Communitarianism reminds us that individuals are shaped by communities. Our identities come from shared stories, history, language, and traditions. Thinkers like Michael Sandel argue that people are embedded in social contexts. If young people lose shared narratives, they may feel disconnected and confused. In a multicultural society, education should help students understand both diversity and common identity. Without shared values, freedom loses its moral direction.
How can we help young people rebuild moral clarity in the modern world?
I believe that education system plays a central role in rebuilding moral clarity. Education is not only about exams or technical skills. It is also a platform for value shape and cultural identity building. Under globalization, many education systems focus too much on competition or personal achievement. As a result, young people may gradually ignore community responsibility and public values. This is not because young people lack morality, but because education has weakened the connection between individuals and the society. To address this problem, education should combine local philosophy with critical thinking. Critical thinking helps students analyze different value systems and avoid falling into extreme relativism or blind rejection of traditions. From a communitarian perspective, individuals are not isolated. They grow within families, cultures, and traditions. And education should help students understand that they are embedded in a community. At the same time, education should avoid simple indoctrination. Experiential learning, such as community service and teamwork, allows students to practice responsibility rather than just talk about it. At the digital age, this process can be further strengthened through digital co-construction. Instead of passively receiving values, students can discuss, reinterpret, and co-create cultural meanings on digital platforms. Together, education, critical thinking, and digital participation help students develop cultural competence, moral judgment, and a balanced sense of responsibility.
Today, we explore the moral confusion in globalization. We learned that diversity doesn't mean moral chaos, and tradition doesn't mean oppression. Through philosophy, education, and dialogue, young people can rebuild moral clarity and cultural confidence. Thank you for watching.